once attendance has been administered for the day's events. There will be no more than 2. It is up to you now, Autobots. You really are more than meets the eye.
Thank you so much. That was super awesome, Brian. Let's get some hands. Let's get some applause there going. All right. So at this point, we would like to kick off the official activities. We're going to start with an official warm welcome from our new Vice President of Academic Affairs, Matt Jordan, and then we'll keep it rolling.
Thanks, Crystal. So it is my honor to be here today to welcome everyone to the Pierce Student Success Conference. I'd like to take a moment to thank Crystal, Kalenda, Brian, the Student Success Committee, and everyone that had a hand in planning today's events. I met with Crystal and Kalenda in December, and they asked me if I'd like to participate in today's event. They proceeded to tell me a little bit about it. They said it's extremely student focused. They said it's not about enrollment. It's not about budget. This is not the place for an update on those items. They told me it would be equity focused. It would be about student support, good instructional practices. It would have the day would have a very collaborative feel, and that the theme was transformation. So of course, when I heard all this, I was really excited to participate. I was also excited because an event just like this had been transformational in my own journey. I remember sitting in the opening session at a day very similar to today when I was a faculty member at Pasadena City College. The presenter was walking us through disaggregated student achievement data. And you can imagine what the data showed. That our Black and Latinx students were performing, had their student achievement outcomes were much lower than other students at the college. And even though this sounds naive from today's lens, I was shocked by this and horrified. And in that moment, I was transformed. My approach to how I thought about my teaching shifted from thinking of it in terms of something I loved and worked really hard at to thinking about it as more of a vocation or a calling. Education stopped being the field that I worked in, and I started to view it as my life's work. And I bet that's something that all of us here in this room have in common, that we view education as our life's work. I don't know about you, but my educational journey was not smooth. It took me 8 years to complete my undergraduate education, and I experienced challenges along the way. At one point, I was on academic probation, and I was even expelled from the college that I attended. What I remember about that difficult part in my life, I don't look back and think about the student affairs division of the college or the academic affairs division. What I remember are individuals. I remember a therapist in the health center, a secretary in the dean's office, the dean. They were both really nice to me. I remember several faculty members along the way who were great teachers, and one faculty member in particular who took an interest in me as a person. So it was really about these individuals. And what I see here today is a room full of individuals, a room full of professionals who together make up a community who have come together to focus on student success. And I want to acknowledge none of you have to be here today on your Friday, but you are. You've come together to focus on student success because you understand the power of education to transform individuals. You know that education has the power to transform lives and to correct injustices. and we know that education has the power to transform the world. I want to thank you for coming here today to focus on student success. I want to thank you for including me and welcoming me. And I just want to close by saying I'm very excited to be here with you today to do this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate your words, and sharing that story is just so powerful and such a great reminder that success is not always a straight line, but that we have the power to help our students through it. So I appreciate you. Now I'd like to invite Kalinda up here, who's going to share a couple of words of welcome and some instructions about how this works.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. And thanks again, Matt, for that great welcome and introduction. Thank you to my partner in crime, Crystal Kegel, or I should say my partner in student success. On behalf of the Student Success Committee, as well as the Student Success Conference Planning Group, we just want to welcome you to today's event. As you can tell by now, our theme is transforming student success because we're more than meets the eye. And we took on the Transformers theme because we really believe that as we've navigated through the last year, we were superheroes. And we thought that, that was very appropriate because of the way that we all banded together and handled the crises, the many crises that were before us. And this year, as we look forward to what we have ahead of us and what we've already encountered that's behind us, we really feel as though it's incredibly important to remember that transforming ourselves, our students are transforming themselves. And so we are actively engaged in this transformational process that is necessary and very timely. So although sometimes it hurts and it's a little painful, it is definitely what we need and what's important for us to navigate the seas that are ahead of us. So without further ado, I'm just going to get us started. We're going to get underway. The first thing we have up this morning is one of our favorite activities in the Student Success Conference, which is our student panel. And so with that said, I'm going to throw it over to my colleague, Brad Sines from the English department. I think you all know him. Brad?
Hi, Kalinda. Thank you. First, I feel obligated to explain the mask. I was told by Eddie Churchian that this was a costume party, and so I borrowed the Bumblebee mask from Center for Academic Success, and this was based on the promise that Eddie would show up as Shia LaBeouf, and I do not think that he did that. So I'm red right now, but you probably can't see that because of the mask. And yeah, I shouldn't be surprised. He's done this to me before. I showed it to my first DC meeting in a toga because he told me that was a toga party. So thank you, Eddie. But this is my Bumblebee mask, and thank you to Center for Academic Success for supplying me for this. But I will take this off so I don't have to, scare you for the for the duration of this panel. Also, I should let you know that what tends to happen when I begin to speak in these Zoom meetings is all the animals in my house converge on me, like I'm Mary Poppins or something. And so if you see dogs, cats, parrots, duck-billed platypus, that's just excuse that. I'm really sorry. But I'm here to talk with a student panel. What they're going to do is they're going to talk about their experience in the last couple of years, transforming in this very vibrant and difficult educational environment that we've all had to endure. So first, I want to introduce our participants, if I may. First up, we have Haley Sharma. Haley Sharma is an ASO senator, and she's a student representative on a lot of different committees and groups on campus. She is a student rep on the CPAC committee. She is also a student rep on the English and ESL department's diversity, inclusion, and diversity team that we have. She sits on that, so thank you for that, Haley. She is majoring in mechanical engineering with a focus on robotics, which is obviously perfect for the theme here. And she wants to become an engineer in the medical industry. She hopes to transfer by 2024 to Cal Poly, SLO, or UCLA. And she's also a gymnastics coach and volunteers at our community library. So we are very pleased to have Haley here. Haley, you want to wave to everybody? Hi, Haley. Next, we have Geneva Miranda. Geneva Miranda is an early childhood educator major, and she has experience taking both asynchronous and synchronous classes, which I appreciate. She's transferring soon, too. She's going to be transferring in fall of 2022. Congratulations for that. And she's going to CSUN. She's going to have her AST degree. And she's also, if I'm not mistaken, the president of the Child Development Club. And she does volunteer. And she is an advocate for children's education. So Geneva, hi, Geneva. Wave to everybody. Thanks for coming, Geneva. And last, we have Brianna Randall. She is a business major. She is in her 3rd year at Pierce College. She plans to graduate this semester. She wants to create a nonprofit organization for minority youth interested in starting a unique business. And she also likes to educate people on, what it's like to start a business, all the legal and, bureaucratic stuff that's behind that. And she is also a baker and a self-taught musician. I am the same. I am a baker and a self-taught musician, but I am probably not nearly as great as you are, Brianna, or Bree, as we like to call her. Say hi, Bree. Thanks for coming.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate having you here. And as you know, the theme of this conference is transformation and transforming for your success. So I want to ask you some questions that relate to that, and we'll just shoot through, see what you have to say. And again, thank you for your feedback. We all find it very useful, and we appreciate you being here. I know, being in a room full of teachers and administrators might be a little intimidating, but again, you are really important, and we value what you have to say and your experience and expertise. So first off, since the theme of this conference is transforming for student success, we'd like you to start by talking about the ways that you've had to transform for your learning experience. How has that transformed in the past 2 years? What have you had to do to transform the way that you approach education in the last 2 years in order to succeed? Bree, why don't we start with you?
Okay, first, I just want to say thank you for everyone who's here. I am grateful to be able to be a part of this panel and let you guys know what I've experienced and what other students I know have experienced and what can, benefit the learning experience. So as mentioned, this is my 3rd year. I faced a lot of challenges from going offline to online with consistency, motivation, and, being adaptive. I think that the online experience provides an entirely new style of learning, and it definitely has its benefits and drawbacks. I think one benefit is being able to attend school without the need for commuting. I am someone who provides entirely for myself, and I do have work and I do have to grocery shop and a lot of other things. So with the online experience, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do these things without having to struggle as much. I also think that it's an opportunity for other students who do require work. There are students who are full-time students, full-time workers, students who are full-time parents, and it eases the worry for financial issues. I think one drawback, however, is basically the responsibility to be accountable. And sometimes it feels like I'm teaching myself. And I think that one thing that could really help with that is professors making themselves available. I think that from transferring from in-person to online, it has kind of halted teachers in a way where, hey, like, I'm not used to being online. It's like, it's hard to communicate, but it isn't, it's really just about learning and being adaptive, just like students have to be. So I think that, that's kind of my experience and the experience of other students as well that I've talked to personally.
Thank you, Bree. Geneva, what do you say about that?
Hi, everyone. I wanted to start off by saying if you hear any interruptions, my children have 3 days today, so they're both home with me. So yeah, to answer your question, basically, I really needed to utilize office hours a lot more. And I think office hours was not a choice. In order for me to communicate and to really understand the course was literally going to office hours, and not only just educational purpose, but I met a lot of great professors, and I actually see her, Dr. Longmore. She has been my mentor, and she has helped me education advice. I have asked her on a personal level, like, what do you think about this? What do you think I should join? And she has really pushed me to get out of my comfort zone. She introduced me to the Child Development Club. In addition, she also had offered me maybe possibility to be a tutor during the child development online. So definitely it was a little bit more, it was more than just education, but it was more as a mentor to me. So I am really greatly appreciative of her hard work and dedication to me. And, she became my friend, she gave me her number and, and she's just been amazing to me. So I wanted to definitely give her a shout out. And in addition to that, another thing that I had to really also, getting out of my comfort zone so I can be successful as a student was joining the Child Development Club. I think that definitely had molded me to be a leader and has molded me to, like I said before, to, get out of my comfort zone to be successful. And in the Child Development Club, even though it was virtual, I learned a lot. I learned, leadership skills. I learned to connect with other professors, in addition to, to my peers. I met some really great peers as students in the club. And the staff faculties is Professor Cortez, and she as well, I actually saw her in other, as a board of director in CCRC, I seen her around. So it's just kind of nice to have that partnership with her. And it makes me feel comfortable when I am out of the school and I'm doing volunteer work, I'm able to see her and other things that I'm interested in, always asking for advice. So yeah, so the main two things was, I had to say office hours and, Child Development Club has definitely played a big role in my experience here. Thank you.
Yeah, Geneva, you are part of the Child Development Club. You're the president, correct? I have that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Were you part of that before the pandemic started?
No, I was not. I was, I'm a little timid. I feel like sometimes I tend to talk a lot. So I kind of, I don't know. I'm just a little timid, but knowing that it was virtually, it made me feel a little bit more comfortable, like joining. So, I started off by sitting on the Child Development Club at first, because I wasn't sure how it works. And then later on, Professor Cortez did tell me, oh, I think you can do it. So she pushed me, and I'm glad she did, because I wouldn't be here.
Do you think if the pandemic didn't happen that you wouldn't have joined the club? Was that part of the reason? Was that part of your transformation? Was joining that club?
Oh yeah. I do believe so. That the virtual Child Development Club was more accessible for me, because sometimes when I would be in person, the schedule kind of what do you call it? Overlap. So it was kind of hard, but doing it virtually was a lot beneficial for me.
Yeah, it would be good for students to know, and maybe the faculty members can help with this, that, for students to know that clubs are still active right now during this time, and that, have a lot to offer. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that experience. Haley, what do you have to say? What's it been like transforming for you?
Hi, I think the drastic change from being in person to online within the past 2 years, it created a lot of confusion and independence within all students, including myself. I had this disconnection with my fellow teachers and my peers, and it made me have to find different ways and methods to implement to fully adapt to this transition. I think my learning methods and experiences have transformed with being much more dependent on myself and utilizing resources I have around me that I didn't realize I had before. Many of my professors, teachers allowed us to rewatch Zoom lectures, and it fully allowed me to reinforce my knowledge. And I saw myself doing a lot better on tests, quizzes, and homework itself, because I could have misheard something fully during the live lecture, but rewatching it during my free time allowed me to implement different notes, and using this allowed me to fully see myself success online. And I think I didn't really use emailing when I was in person, because I had that access to my teacher in person, but I relied on emailing and Canvas inbox much more. It was sort of my connection with my teachers and professors. And some responses did take a little longer. It's just having that ability to know I was going to receive a response back. It gave me this foundation with my online learning experience that I still had a connection regardless of being remote and at home. I think with being much more independent on my studying, I did stop procrastinating, but that was because a lot of my teachers posted homework 2 weeks in advance, or at least a week. So it allowed me to look over the curriculum and kind of accumulate all my questions and ask them ahead of time, rather than resorting to last minute and the night before, where I probably wouldn't have received a response back. And I think this allowed me to fully gain my success while being online. And I didn't see this as a setback. I just saw it as a new way of educating myself and using my resources I had around me.
Thanks, Haley. Haley, this is I think I had this correct. Is this your first year at Pierce College?
Yeah, it's my first year.
And so you started your first year under the pandemic. What, if you don't mind, just how was it making, like, transforming, from high school to college in your first year having to be online? Was that particularly challenging for you?
I think it was kind of difficult because being from high school to college, it's a different way of learning. And I think something that I did do like that helped me a lot was doing summer classes, because I was able to take one class, kind of get the hang of the different ways we use Canvas, and rather than using different methods that I had in high school, taking one class gave me that ability to fully transition to Pierce College without having that stress of doing 4 classes all at once. And that's something that helped me a lot.
Thanks. We're going to move on to the next question. I want to just kind of highlight something that everyone seemed to say. And when we talked before about all this, you were saying this, and I'm getting this from your answers now, is that before, when we talked, I think, Geneva, you had said that, you had to become really independent, in this new climate. And from all of your answers, I see that theme running through there, that this environment is requiring students to be independent learners. And it's something that was a big deal for me to hear, because it, as a teacher, I try to make my courses online as self-explanatory and as self-guided as possible. But I think that's something that we all need to remember, is that how independent you are in this, even no matter our efforts. And I think that should shape some of the things that we do, the way that we teach our courses, and the resources that we offer. So thank you for that answer. It's really helpful and meaningful. Question number 2, and again, we'll start with you, Bree, on this one. What peer service have you found most useful in this environment?
So I picked 3. I would say EOPS, financial aid, and Emoja. EOPS has really helped me out with not just their book grant, which is amazing, but also the counselors. My counselor is Joel. He's definitely been there for me in some of my hardest times, and I'm extremely grateful to have been able to have, that ear to be able to vent and express my worries about my education and my future. And it really helped. As far as financial aid is concerned, I am working through the work study program. So I actually work for EOPS as a student worker, and that has helped me tremendously without I don't have to worry about, I need to get to class, but I'm scheduled to work at this time. They work with my schedule, and that's something that I am so grateful for. I've never really had that. So, and as far as Emoja is concerned, Emoja offers a community, and just the idea of knowing that it's there, being able to go online if I really need to speak with other people, knowing that, hey, there are people here in this Zoom, I can come here. And just as it was in person, because I initially started in person. I started the summer of high school. As soon as I graduated right into school, it was the most welcoming, amazing community that I had ever been a part of, even, in high school. So I think it's awesome that that's offered. And I'm just grateful for all these services and all the people who express their kindness and care. That's something that's important, that I'm glad that wasn't lost in every aspect of school.
Thank you for that, Bree. And we do have a lot of great services here at Pierce. And I think one of our biggest challenges is getting students into them and, marketing them, letting, people know that they exist. And it sounds like you make use of them. And that's great. That's really great to hear, Bree. Geneva, what about you? What service or services have you found to be most useful in this environment?
For me, during the pandemic, has been the library, just because our community library where I live was actually closed. And I was very grateful that the library at Pierce was actually open. They open early. I can't remember if it's 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., but they're open early, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. And that gives me enough time when I drop off my kids, it gives me enough time for me to go and do my homework and then go to work at 1. So it gives me a good time for me to really get studying done in the library. In addition, our community library doesn't open until 12 p.m. So it was just kind of hard and difficult to kind of schedule it. So definitely Pierce has a great library. They have great resources. And also, if we're talking about online, they also have the 24-hour librarian that she can help you with citations and, research research resources as well. And I remember using that a lot actually during, my English papers. And, so they were always very kind and courteous, and having that flexibility being 24 hours, that was really good for me because, I stay awake at night and that's where I use it the most. So I was glad there was some support there. And then the second one, I was going to say the Branham Pantry. I think that one's really good. I feel like for myself in the beginning, I felt a little embarrassed to go use it. But, afterwards, you're just like, oh, you open the bag and it's actually cool stuff in there. So you open the bag and there's like great snacks in there. And then they have all sorts of things that a student actually will eat. It's not stuff like, oh, I don't like this, but it's really great stuff. So I think the Branham Pantry has done a lot during this time. And not only just by providing food, but also resources. They have given like shelter, if anybody needed shelter, and an additional community pantries that, maybe they don't have what we're looking for. There's other resources, to look around locally. And I think during like the Christmas, they had issued like a $50 gift card. So that was kind of cool, that I was able to use that for groceries. And I think the resources are there. And I think how you mentioned, Professor, that we just need to like promote it, because I didn't know about the Branham Pantry until a little earlier, like online when I saw them on Instagram. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I didn't know that. And I think one of the students had done like a reveal. So she was like opening the bag and showing everything. So I'm like, oh, I need to go over there and go check it out. And they also provided like masks and hand sanitizers. But yeah, so definitely great stuff in the Branham Pantry. So yeah.
Well, I know that a lot of people in this room are very excited by your answer because I know the library has been working really hard. And I know Darcy, who does our Brahma Pantry, has been working really hard. So I'm sure they're very pleased to hear that you say that. And those are great programs that we have. And I'm excited to hear that you've made use of them and that they've been helpful to you. Haley, what about you? What service or services have you found to be most useful in this environment?
A more technical service I found useful was the Pierce website. With me entering college online during the pandemic, I felt that I didn't have the same opportunities to get tours on campus, like in person, or simply get in-person counseling or be in class in person. It resulted with me just researching through the website and find different ways I could still gain that Pierce experience regardless of being online as that minor setback. And then specifically speaking, ASO, the Associated Student Organization, helped me a lot. It provided me with a stability and foundation that I really wanted entering Pierce College. And I know Dr. Laura and Jeremy have helped me a lot, whether it was in person or online counseling, and giving me that little foundation to kind of guide me through my first year at Pierce. ASO, it gave me this connection. While being at home, it was a service that I felt provided me with a sense of getting to know the school and building that relationship with my fellow faculty and my students as well. And with joining it, I wouldn't have done it without the Pierce website. Specifically speaking, it's given me this chance to gain insight into the school, regardless of being at home. It gave me many opportunities to take part in like workshops such as transfer workshops. And while I'm being a first year, it allows me to prepare for my future and succeed in the end. And even weekly Tuesday meetings that we all get to meet on Zoom. And it's kind of just this relief that I get to still talk to my peers regardless of being online. And it gave me something to feel fully part of Pierce while being remote.
Haley, it sounds like you, the way that you found a lot of these services was your own research, right? Just stumbling around on the website and finding them. Did any of your teachers bring this to you, or publish it on their Canvas shells or anything like that?
I didn't really see any on my Canvas shells, but mainly like making appointments with counselors. And I saw Dr. Laura on the Pierce website. So then I made a meeting with her online, and she gave me a lot of insight on ASO, and she said that it was a perfect fit for me. So that was something that allowed me to kind of join it.
Thanks for that. And again, like I once had a project where I actually had to look at all the different services that we are offering to students to help them succeed. And I was surprised to see actually how many we have. And I think, again, one of the big challenges, and it's something that Geneva mentioned too, is just to get those out there, make students aware that they exist, so that they're using every resource that they have to succeed. Thank you for that. I think that was really useful. And this next question, I think, is the big one. I think it's the $1 million question. And I know we talked about this before, and I'm really interested in your answer in terms of, for you, and also students that you know, you representing students. So, what is it like for you? What is it like for the people that you know? But we are, hoping to transition back to campus eventually, transform back to campus. And when we do, and we are in the middle of that, transition right now, will you continue taking classes online, or are you going to return to face-to-face ones? And what are some of the factors that will, help you decide on that? Bree, we'll start with you.
Okay, so personally, I will opt for online classes. There's one class that I am taking in person. It's my business calculus class because in my fall semester, I attempted to take it, but I could not focus. I think that there are definitely some classes for certain students that, they would much rather take in person, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. But I am personally primarily online. I think it makes it easier for me to provide for myself. It makes it easier for me to pursue my goals. And I feel like it's helped me to round out to be a much better student, a much better musician, and a much better business owner. And, business administration is my major. So I don't think that showing up to class, this may be controversial. I don't think that showing up to class prepares us for the work world. I think it prepares us really to exist, work, and live in undesirable conditions and make it seem like this is what life is, but that's not really what life is, and that's not really what the work life is. I think students have to remain open-minded, optimistic, and relentless to pursue what they want. And to be told you have to come to class and you have to do this and you have to do that, it shows you like, okay, I am required to do these things. In the work world, when I'm told I have to, I'm required to do these things. And I feel like it really affects the mental health of a student. And I think that's a really, really big concern, especially with going online. I've heard from a lot of students who struggled with, depression and many different things, me personally as well. And I know that having that flexibility really, really helps me out. I think one thing also that that came up was professors needing to really consider a student's position. I'm sure that professors have had similar experiences, but as I mentioned, there are a lot of students who are full-time parents, full-time workers, and full-time students in general. And I had to watch my mother. My mother, she was a full-time student, 4 children, had to work. She had to adapt to the online experience, adapt from not just from working, but also from school. And I think it definitely helped her in the early stages of my sister's life, who she just had a baby, a sister named Nyla. So I think it's important for teachers to make themselves available to accommodate for the lack of communication there. I feel like I've heard from a lot of students that a lot of professors don't talk to them. A lot of professors will say that they have office hours and don't show up to their office hours. And although it's like, oh, maybe you were busy, it really affects the student. So I think that just as students must adapt, teachers must as well. And I think that it can create an extremely beautiful working environment that requires us to be responsible, like as Haley mentioned, which was super dope, requires us to be responsible and independent while also still getting the experience and still being sociable. So, yeah.
I have a question. So we just started offering, Bree, we just started offering, in-person classes. That it is end of last summer, and then we offered more last fall. Have you taken any in-person classes since we started offering any, or have you stayed strictly online even after we started offering some in-person classes?
I stayed strictly online. Yeah, it just was a lot easier since I needed to work. And initially, when I started at Pierce, they offered the Metro bus pass, and I didn't see that come back until recently. Since we're going back online, that was a source that I utilized. And since it wasn't made available to me, and eventually they started charging again for buses, it kind of didn't really work out the best. And I just thought, staying at home, going to school at home, and going to work when I need to, it was more flexible. It made me able to help, my family where I needed. Even when I was hospitalized before, I was able to still, go to school. And when I had to go back to work, and I was successful.
And you currently work on campus, correct? Right? You're working in
Yes, I do. I do. And it's really cool because it definitely works with my math class. Like the one class that I have, it works with the schedule really well. And, it's great. It's great.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bree, for that. So Geneva, when as we're transitioning back to campus, are you going to continue taking online classes? Are you going to go to face-to-face ones? And what are some factors that are important to you in making that decision?
Yes. So I think definitely I'm gonna go with Brianna on this one. I think I'm gonna be doing online classes, just because as she mentioned, the flexibility. And I know Pierce College has a diversity students, and I am a parent student or student parent. And it's and this time is very hard because I have had an instance when, my children go to school and they call me and say, oh, you have to pick up your children because somebody got COVID and the whole class is, has to close. So me being in person, if I'm being in person, during the spring semester, that's going to be conflict and issue, and I'm going to be missing class. So it's just going to add more stress and more pressure that I have to, leave that class to go pick up my children. And not only that, but then childcare, I have, they're part of the Head Start program. So when I'm a little one, he's not in the Head Start program because there's no room for him. So I have to stay home with him. So that gives me time. Doing online gives me time and allows me the flexibility for me to be a parent student and be able to do my homework and be in Zoom meetings and etc. while, I'm taking care of my little one. And I know it's different for everybody. In addition to, during these times, working. So it's just been, it's a lot, Brianna was saying, I'm working mom, as, a student, a housewife. It's a lot on my plate. But doing online has definitely I have made myself successful. And I'm so totally blessed that in a way I'm happy, I know it's going to sound weird, but the pandemic has really pushed me to be, like she said, self-independent. And I have seen progress. And so I think definitely going to be online just because of that, because of the flexibility with the schedule, with working and, childcare.
When I'd asked you, to give me a bio, and in your bio you had mentioned, that you have experience taking synchronous and asynchronous classes. I'm curious as to what that experience has been like for you. Do you have does one work better for your schedule than the other? Do you prefer one over the other? Do you pretty much see them as the same? What do you think about async and sync classes? Geneva.
Yes, I think I always get confused with async and sync. So the one that we do live, I always get confused. And I have seen so many Instagrams and so many like definitions how to remember, and I can't remember. I don't know why. But the one that we do live, I do enjoy them. I'm not gonna say no, I do enjoy them. It's just having to sit on the chair like for like 3 hours, your back hurts. And I'm sure professors can relate to this. You're sitting on the chair and you're being live, and yeah, you get like 10-15 minute break, but wow, I'm just like, seriously, I can't do this, but sometimes you have the option to have your camera on, and sometimes the professors like, no, you have to have your camera on, and then some professors like, it's fine if you have it off, but yes, be aware if I call you need to know what we're talking about. But yeah, just sitting for a long time is just, I just cannot do that. So preferably just sitting, and then the one that we have to just do online, like by yourself, I think that one works best for me. I can just log in when my kids are sleeping, I log in and I'm awake. I'm like the night owl, and I'm doing all my homework at night, turning everything in. And that, that works for me. In addition to the question also, we were talking about, if we were doing online or if I'm going to go face to face. And I also chose online because I do a lot of like volunteer work as well. And it's for, I'm part of the board of directors and Head Start and policy and all that stuff. Parent committee. So it's kind of good stuff for me because I get to enhance what I'm learning here in the community college and take that and practices in the real life, workforce. And I get to network with other people. So it just has a lot of factors to it.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask you one more little follow-up question, but I want to point out that one of the Crystal has said in the chat about, we need to remember that async and sync isn't clear. And I know that's such a problem with me. I use those terms way too freely, and I just did when I asked you that question. But one of the underrated, pains of the pandemic is that having to type the word asynchronously all the time. It makes me so mad. My my autofill just still does not know asynchronous. And so I have to actually spell it out every time. And it's so frustrating. But I wanted to ask you, Geneva, you had once, when we talked, you had said that you liked the dual delivery type of class. Did you mention that to me once, that the dual delivery classes is the one where you can either go in person or online? Were you thinking about taking those classes at one point, or do you remember when we talked about that?
Yes, I remember that I had mentioned to you, like, oh, they have this cool thing, that they're doing. I haven't yet enrolled in any. To be honest, I'm a little afraid, because what about if it doesn't work? And then I don't know. I just feel like if I start like in person and I do the dual with the camera on, I don't know. I feel like it's gonna mess up my routine. I don't know how I feel. I just feel weird. I feel like I'm gonna not be successful because it's new for everybody. And I think I heard that Pierce College is the first one to launch that program. So I'm just kind of nervous to join it and not do so well, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new thing, and that's why I really wanted to hear what you had to say about it, because this is the first time I think we've heard a student's direct feedback on the delivery modality. So thank you for that. Haley, what about you? As we come back to campus, are you thinking about online? Are you going to stay online? Are you going to take face-to-face courses? What's going to be the factor or factors in deciding that for you?
I'm taking a little bit of everything like in short words, but I think something that I definitely wanted in person was my chemistry labs and math classes, because with me being an engineering major, I value being able to understand and know this knowledge like in person, and being able to ask my professor a lot of questions without having to wait for that email response back. So that's something that I did take in person. So I took my math and my chemistry classes in person, but with my rest of my classes online and asynchronous, it gave me this ability to do a little bit of everything, where I'm still transitioning back to in person and I don't feel too stressed or worried. Kind of being able to do in person benefits me with still getting that connection in person with my teachers, but also doing stuff on my own time. And I don't want to experience any kind of shock with being completely in person and overwhelmed, where it results in me just dropping or classes are not doing well. I think with transitioning back to in person, there's many decisions and considering factors that go into play. I think conflicting schedules, as I have a lot of extracurriculars and volunteering around my schedules, I think it's vital where I still have to have that option with choosing asynchronous. It's something that's definitely helped me a lot this past year. And during winter classes, taking an asynchronous allows me to have that flexibility to not commit, but still get that same education without having to sacrifice any of my work or volunteering.
Thanks for that. I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys real quick. I just have a follow-up question. I'm curious how you feel about this, because this is something that's popped up recently. We are kind of offering more short semester courses. These are classes that run like 8 weeks, first half of the semester, second half. Is that something that you ever envision be interested in taking? Bree, would you ever be interested in possibly taking an 8-week class over a full semester course?
I've actually taken multiple 8-week classes. I feel like they're very helpful, especially when like I opted to take them in periods where I was really needed. My grandmother in the summer, she had experienced a few strokes, and I wanted to be there to help her, wanted to be there, because no one else could be. So having that open availability where it's like, okay, I can be here for you. And I have an 8-week course where I just got to zero in and focus. It's really cool. And I feel like professors tend to be a lot more communicative during those courses for some reason. They're easier to contact. I don't know why, but personally, I just feel like that type of communication is what I want to see across every semester. Because it's very quick and very fast paced. And although an entire semester may not seem that way, it still is. It very much is still fast paced. And it also depends on the course. Like for me with math, I've always struggled with math. I'm not going to say I'm not good at it. I would never say that. I can be as good as anything, as great as I want to be. But I know that I struggle with it sometimes. So being able to have someone there where it's like, hey, like you got a question, I got you regardless. I appreciate that and I value that. So 8-week courses are awesome.
Geneva, what about you? Would you be interested in 8-week courses, or have you taken them before?
Yes, actually, I was enrolled in the PACE program, and I actually love the 8 weeks. I feel like I'm so successful now. I don't know why for some reason. I don't know because it's fast, but I was enrolled in the PACE for a very long time. But then unfortunately, there were some of the classes they don't offer in the PACE program, so I had to take the 16-week courses because obviously because I wanted to graduate on time and etc. But yeah, the PACE program is great. I said the 8 weeks are amazing. There is a lot of work, but it's just pretty much all there. You just need to, I don't know if there's a night thing for me that works. I just go on. So yeah, I would definitely take them again. If the PACE program, can offer more 8-week classes, that would be super beneficial.
Haley, what are your thoughts on 8-week courses? Have you taken them or would you ever be interested in them?
I've never taken an 8-week course, but I've taken the 5 weeks. However, I think my 5 week or 8 week courses, I would take it with like a class where I know I won't feel overwhelmed, such as like taking a coding class in 8 weeks. I felt that that wouldn't be doable for me, but or a math class like Calc 1. I think it's just something that's very open-ended, and it just depends on the specific class that I would take, knowing that I get overwhelmed easily, and I enjoy 6-week classes because or 16-week classes because it gives me that ability to transition and not feel overwhelmed with all the criteria that's given at me.
Great. Thank you for that, you guys. That was great. All right. So next question, and then Bree, we'll start with you. As we come back to campus face-to-face, what would be 1 or 2 things you would like to see happen at Pierce to support your success?
Okay, so I feel like this may be a bit of an uncomfortable conversation for everyone, but I would just like to let you know it was also very uncomfortable for me. I think that professors should be held accountable, taught, and tested on their implicit and explicit biases. So I bring this up because it is a problem that a lot of teachers and just faculty are not aware of. I learned it from my professor in my psychology class. I'm so mad that I can't remember his name, but he literally opened my mind to like understand so many things that have happened to me. Recently in the fall, I had an experience with a professor where I came for office hours and wound up sitting and listening to them cry about how what was it? I'm sorry, it's a lot. They cried to me about for an hour about their struggles of not having money, but having a father, having a paid education, a car out of school. And I would like to mention, I never mentioned the status of my father. I never mentioned, if I had my father in my life or not. And they also felt the need to mention how they had Black family members. And it was extremely traumatizing. It was, this is how like I get through my emotions. I'm laughing, but it's not funny at all. It was really traumatizing. And I spoke to my family members about it, and it just baffled me. I almost dropped out of the course, and this was an 8-week class. So I almost dropped out of the course. I wasn't sure what to do. And I just want people to know that this is not just my story. I've spoken with many different students who talk about how professors have done certain things or said certain things. And although they may not know what they're saying, and sometimes, we do, but it doesn't connect. It's important that professors know that this creates a hostile environment. And just as in the workplace, this isn't okay. It shouldn't be okay in school. I think that teachers need to be educated. There should be resources available for teachers to be educated on what implicit bias is and explicit bias. And when I say tested, I feel like it's important to understand where your biases lay so that you understand how to confront them and change them. It's a big problem, and I want it to be stressed as a problem so that people are more open to understanding and or open to being willing to put themselves through these tests or educate themselves, because it's an uncomfortable experience. But you also have to understand that these students are uncomfortable. These students that have to sit through this, students who have paid for classes, students who aren't getting paid to show up, and I just think it's extremely important. Another thing that I wanted to mention that I want to see is teachers communicating more. And I know that that's been stressed in everyone's questions. questions and answers, but it's very, very important for teachers to remain in communication, because I feel as though maybe even in that course, had, you know, my teacher reached out to me, had we communicated more, I think that it could have been resolved, but it still hasn't been. And it still hurts me today. I think being online is no excuse to neglect students, because as hard as it is for other students, you have to remember that there are students who are not knowledgeable of technology. There are students who are older. There are students who have disabilities who still work and strive to communicate with their teachers, and it should be reciprocated. I think it's part of the job, and I appreciate every professor who has reached out and communicated with me, but I think it's something that really needs to be stressed and needs to be worked on. So, you know, there's that.
Well, thanks, Bree. Thanks for that. I know that that was really hard for you to talk about, and I know everyone in here appreciates it. And if you look at the chat, you see that you have a lot of love and a lot of support. And I think what you're saying is really important. It's something that people needed to hear, and I think it's definitely something that you know, if we're looking at, you know, resources that Pierce needs to offer, you know, implicit and explicit bias training is a big deal. And again, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I know everyone here appreciates that too. Geneva, so same question for you as we come back to, you know, campus face-to-face. What would be one or two things that you would like to see happen at Pierce College to support your success?
I think one of the main things that I've was really not only for me personally, but I had said mental awareness workshops, and I know Pierce College do offer them, but I feel like if we do maybe like once a month, that would be beneficial for, you know, all students, because, you know, we have to take in consideration that a lot of students are coming back, or students are choosing to coming back face to face, are coming from a place that, you know, that family members have, you know, passed because of COVID, and, you know, our, you know, both parents are working now, and it's just been a shift in their lifestyle. So I think definitely more mental awareness workshops, not only, you know, just until mental awareness month. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, I'll be right there. Okay, thank you, buddy. Not only on during mental awareness month, but just in general, like every month. And I think the second thing I had wrote down was like professors having an open door policy. I feel like sometimes, touching what Brianna was saying a little bit, sometimes, yeah, you know, it's just kind of difficult when we do have those professors that, you know, go above and beyond, and you feel, oh, wow, this is great. And then sometimes I feel like sometimes it might be students' expectations. Like I feel my expectations are a little high. I'm like, oh, well, this professor can do it, how come this person can't? So I feel like sometimes they should have an open door policy where people can, or students can go in there and talk about their issue and be and can stay in confidentiality. You know what I mean? So just having that communication, I feel like basically that's what I'm trying to say. Having the communication, and like Brianna was saying, being reciprocal about it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Geneva. Haley, same for you. So as we come back to, you know, campus face to face, what are one or two things that you would like to see happen at Pierce to support your success?
One thing I would want to see is workshops, like what Geneva said about workshops or events, but this kind of catered for all students. Like with the drastic change of being online to in person, I think it created a sense of culture shock, going back to school on campus rather than just being at the comfort of your own home. It makes students feel this sense of worry, and wanting to allow that smooth transition emphasizes on creating an awareness on ways students can gain this interaction with peers and teachers at the workshops. I think it alleviates some of that worry about that extreme change back to in person, and kind of highlighting on that as well, focusing on first year new students like myself who entered Pierce completely online, and creating these small events to gain that way of being able to create a connection with the school. I think it's vital for success. I think gaining that connection with the school stems from being able to do well. And if students dread going to school on campus because they don't feel like they belong there and they choose online and remote classes, it doesn't allow for them to fully understand and comprehend that curriculum that's being taught to them. And I think creating these events allows students to network and gain that interaction with peers or professors. And it builds that desire of wanting to go to school and enjoying it rather than just dreading in person and resorting to online. I think with more in-person classes, and rather than choosing online, because that stigma that's associated with online being comfortable at home, and reverting back to that traditional manner of in-person classes.
Yeah, I think, something that you've all mentioned, and I don't think that we can hear this enough, because back when we first moved online because of COVID, I did a survey of all English and ESL classes to see what their online experience was like. And the thing that everyone kept repeating is they felt isolated. They felt like, from other students, that they felt like they were just kind of working on things in a vacuum. And I think that this is something, having students, or allowing them to interact with one another, creating an environment for them to interact with one another. It's important online, but it is important to do that as we transition back to campus as well. And I think that all of you are involved in efforts and organizations on campus that help do that. Emoja, ASO, the clubs. And so this is something, hopefully, that as we, move back to being on campus, that we can advertise and market it and make students realize how these are real key tools to their success. And I'm impressed that you three are involved with what you're involved in, and I commend you. And hopefully we can get more students to go down that path. So that leads us to the last question. And again, Bree, we'll start with you. What is one thing you would like teaching faculty to hear before the semester starts on Monday? What would support your success?
Okay, so I definitely have more than one thing, but I'm gonna go through it. So I feel like it's important for professors ultimately to remain patient. This is a trying experience from going face-to-face to online to face-to-face once again. And there are a lot of students who have experienced tragic losses. There are a lot of students who've wound up experiencing homelessness, who have been affected, their mental health has been affected, social anxiety, depression, and like I mentioned, financial hardships. I think it should be a teacher's priority to assure students that they are with them along the way, because that's sometimes what we need at its base. I think that it's really, really important for us to communicate. And I will stress that continually, because I think it is a very, very big issue. Also, on a lighter side, I do want to mention that study guides are so crucial and so important and beneficial. Not only that, the option to have work made available at like the criteria, the work needed, let's say 2 weeks in advance. I think it's really important, because as far as being online and even being in person, understanding that people have other things that they have to do. I don't think school should be my entire life. I think school should be a part of my life that helps to advance me to be the person that I want to be. So I will say that, having study guides and having the work made available ahead has helped me so much, because there are times like recently, there's been a lot. Recently, my grandmother on my father's side passed away, and that was extremely hard on me, because she, I grew up and she would watch me. I remember being in her house. I remember all of this. And just to hear that was like a shock. And I stopped working for a bit, like with school, I stopped paying attention, and it was a super short course, but my professor made the work available. He allowed me to, and everyone even, to turn in work at a certain time. And he had study guides. And that is the only reason that I have passed and been extremely successful with A in my course. I just want to stress that, providing study guides specifically is extremely helpful. And I think that it's a tool that every professor should use. I also just want to say thank you again for giving this platform to us to be able to speak on behalf of all other students, and hope that everything that I said, people understand, and it helps to create a better future for Pierce and a better future for students and professors.
Thank you. Thanks, Bree. Another great answer. Very useful and very helpful. Geneva, what about you? What is one thing, or more than one thing, that you would like teaching faculty to hear before the semester starts on Monday? What would support your success?
Okay, yes, I feel like I'm here. You guys are gonna think here she goes again with office hours, but I think definitely office hours. The reason why, because I can say when I was online, it's just kind of inconvenient. I'm gonna say that there's some professors that say, oh, I have office hours, from 12 to 1 p.m. And I'm actually one of the persons that do show up to office hours, and then no one's there. So I'm just like, okay, maybe I read the syllabus wrong. And I go back and I know it says 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try next week. I try next week again and no one showed up. I'm like, okay. And then I go on the third week and no one shows up. I'm like, and then I email and I'm ignored. So I'm just like, okay. So I'm just saying like the office hours should be for professor, if at least commit. If they're gonna say office hours, please show up. If not, just don't put it on the syllabus, because it's kind of hard for students like myself that want to connect with the professor and there's no one there. So just office hours, just making sure that, professors are showing up to their office hours. I'm sorry if I'm coming out like that, but just if they're showing up to the office hours. And in addition, because, I'm you guys don't know what great impact people have in office hours. I feel so strong about office hours because I've been in a certain way mold to this person I am now because of professors that are invested in their office hours. And it can be just, a simple hi, and, that's how people connect with other students and students connect with professors. But if no one shows up, it's just kind of like, okay, there's someone here, so it's very inconvenient. So please, if you guys are going to have office hours, please just show up. If not, don't put it on the syllabus. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I just feel very strong about that. And the other thing was, what was that thing? Oh yeah. So, so professors, and I know sometimes I've gone into office hours and professors have said, no one shows up to my office hours. That's why I'm never there. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, if students are not showing to office hours, I think that's an opportunity for professors to kind of think back and be like, how can I reach someone with my office hour and setting up an appointment, maybe let's say Geneva, she's not doing so great. I'm going to schedule her in my office hour and be like, Geneva, you know what? I want to talk to you in the course and see what's going on and set up an appointment with her during office hours. Or maybe you're like, I don't want to do it individually. You can do a group and say, hey, I just want to know how the course is going with 4 students at the same time during my office hours. If no one's showing up, utilize that time to really dig in and invest those times on students, and students will be successful. I've been successful with great professors that are in office hours, and they have, pushed me to do things that I never thought I was able to do, so what I'm trying to say is utilize the office hours as an outreach. If no one shows up, please guys, you guys can, reach out to them and, just talk about the course or talk about if they need any resources, etc. Sorry, I feel like I'm just going along with it, but okay, I'll be quiet now. Sorry.
Thanks, Geneva. Well, I mean, we're supposed to be there. Okay. So even if no one's coming, we got to stay. So I told you, we talked about this when we discussed this. And I told you that after a long period of time, if someone doesn't show up, the teachers tended to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll cut out like 45 minutes early. And that 45 minutes turns into an hour and then an hour and a half. Even if no one's showing up, we got to stay. So it's important to hear what you just said. We need to stay at our office hours and encourage students to go. Thank you. Thank you, Geneva. So Haley, what about you? What is one thing you would like teaching faculty to hear before the semester starts on Monday? What would support your success?
I think adding on to what Geneva was saying about office hours, I know that my fall semester, my English professor, she made it like the ability to like reach out to us and kind of create office hours according to our time. And it was like a couple times, and I think it was very helpful. Like we got to go over our final paper, and that was something that I found very valuable. And her being able to reach out to us gave me that kind of connection of still not having to rely on emailing, but also getting to talk to her for that 30 minutes to an hour. And I know it's kind of time consuming, but then again, it was something that allowed all of us to succeed in the end and do well on our final. And then another thing with office hours, some teacher or some professors like make it where you create an appointment. And I don't really do that just because I don't find it like, I find that it's not as useful. So I do use Canvas Inbox. And then with professors that just have office hours where anyone can come to, I use those a lot more just because like, I don't know when I'm going to like, if it's like a question I don't understand and then it's like 20 minutes before office hours, I can just go to that rather than having to like email to make an appointment. It's something that I found much more valuable and I use much more. And then adding on to that, with students approaching spring semester completely online or in person, one thing I found very vital is both students and teachers coming together and understanding this gray area. I think online learning created a big divide with our learning curriculum. Some students learned a lot more and then some haven't. And I think being accommodating and flexible is vital. Everyone's coming from a different learning curriculum, as I mentioned before. And some students may need that extra week of review and some don't. I think just reinforcing that knowledge that week that many professors do is vital. And I think it comes from that. I think, and then there's problems that are inevitable. I think online learning, there's going to be technical difficulties. I remember my power went out mid-final for my math class, and my professor was very understanding and I was able to retake it. And I think that was something that motivated me. I didn't feel that stress and that I felt like I failed just because my power went out. It was inevitable. And I think just reaching out and communicating is something that stems from that patient perspective of doing well in school.
Well, thank you for that. So what we're hearing here is, communication, patience, and flexibility, and office hours, right? And unless, my dean has told me that we're not supposed to put, TBA or by appointment on our office hours. So unless my dean is lying to me, she would never do, because she's a great dean. I think we're supposed to have, the set office hours on the syllabus. That wraps it up. I want to thank the panelists for coming. I know that everyone in this room appreciates everything that you had to say. Some of the things were tough for you to say, and again, we appreciate that even more. I think your answers were very useful, and all of us here at Pierce wish you students success in the spring semester and also in your transfer and career goals. And you guys, if you ever need anything, just feel free to email me. But otherwise, I'm going to turn it back over to Kalinda. Thank you, Kalinda, and thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you to our amazing panelists. I mean, what a phenomenal job that you all have done, not only expressing yourselves, but more importantly, educating us as to what's working for you, what could stand a little bit of improvement, and also just helpful feedback in your insights. Sharing your personal stories of what you've encountered and what you've overcome has really been, at least for me, inspirational and enlightening. So again, my heartfelt thanks. I feel like in this virtual environment, we can't give each other hugs, but I'd love to give you a virtual hug. I just appreciate you all so much for sharing. And so everyone, let's give them some virtual applause. Give them some love in the chat, please. And panelists, I want you to take a look at the chat, because you have hundreds of employees here at Pierce College on this chat, just really loving on you, appreciating you, and recognizing you. And we would just want you to feel that love. So thanks again. Thanks to the amazing Brad for leading this discussion. And with that, we're gonna take you into next steps. So what we're gonna do next is we have our Student Success Fair. Our Student Success Fair is going to be an opportunity for all of you to visit with some of our student support programs and services to get more information about the services and the programs. You can see on the screen now the breakout rooms have been opened, and we have our leads in those rooms ready to receive you. After the Student Success Fair, you know that we will move into our breakout session number 1, which is going to start at 11:10. So Student Success Fair is up next, and then we'll launch into our breakout session number 1. After breakout session 1, we'll have a little short lunch break, grab a little something to eat, and then we'll move into breakout session number 2. Breakout session number 2 starts at 12:45. Just a reminder that you can always go back to our original Google page to access the links to the different breakout sessions that are coming up and starting at 11:10, but you do not have to leave this Zoom in order to go to our Student Success Fair. So I see many of you are joining or not joining, many of you are getting ready to join the breakout rooms for the Student Success Fair. And with that, we bid you adieu. We'll see you later. Thank you all for being here. And that's all, folks. Maybe that's Looney Tunes. That's not Transformers. So see you later. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Kalinda, and thank you, panelists. You're all amazing. We are opening up the breakout rooms now. They were opened, and then we ran into a little bit of technical difficulties, so it looks like Brian has opened them again. Thank you, Brian. So you can select your own breakout room and just bounce back and forth as you see fit. For the next 45 minutes or so, just give our breakout room presenters a moment to set up. You can go on in there now, but they'll get started just in a few minutes as soon as they're ready to go. It officially starts at 10:20, But they may get started a little bit early. We'll see if they can handle it. But thank you, Brad. Thank you, Kalinda. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Geneva, Haley, Brianna. Thank you, interpreters. You are all phenomenal. And thank you, participants. I'm just such a proud Brahma always, but never more than on this day. So I'll see y'all soon. We will be here in this main room at any time the whole day. So if you ever have any questions, do feel free to come back to this room. All right. If you have any questions today, stick around like right now and we'll answer questions. And if not, just go take a quick break and go into your rooms and we'll get started by 10:20. Thanks, everybody.